Friends, there are 4 specific steps that I would suggest to you in your journey of upgrading your skills, in your journey of preparing yourself and your career for the future. Number 1 is early exposure. Early exposure to new technologies, to new trends, to new devices, to new things that you need to learn in order to be ahead of the curve. That's number 1, early exposure. Number 2, early experimentation. Your ability with going out and exploring and finding out what are sort of the multiple possibilities of this new thing. So after the exposure comes the experimentation, the tinkering with that new technology that might be available. Number 3, early adoption. For you to be able to take that learning, to take that competency and now actually use it, put it to some good use at work or your own business to increase revenue or customer satisfaction or whatever it is. Because if you don't practice the early adoption part, you will have lost the hard work that you put in level 1 and level 2 of having learned it and not using it right now. And number 4, constant upgradation of your skills. So these 4 specific steps in identifying, experimenting with, adopting and then upgrading any new trend, new technology on the horizon will help you stay ahead of the curve in changing times. Early exposure, early experimentation, early adoption, constant upgradation. I want to share some interesting things with you about the magic of early exposure to whether it be in learning a new language, whether it be learning a new technology. Peppa Pig, the highly successful cartoon series from the UK, wherein the characters speak with a British accent, is a huge success with kids across the world. And I saw an article recently wherein American mothers were reporting that their kids are now speaking with a British accent thanks to Peppa Pig. I have many instances within this country, in India, where people who have no formal knowledge of the English language have picked up words and vocabulary just by watching Peppa Pig. This is the power of exposure, just exposure to a language here. But it is also true for a new technology as well, which I will share with you in other examples as we go along. There's been many research studies to share that parents' vocabulary can predict the future income of their child. Because a higher vocabulary, a more diverse vocabulary, is indicative of higher education, and which then has the cumulative effect on a child's career and then their income levels to go on. So again, if kids are exposed to more number of words at a younger age as compared to someone who has been exposed to a very limited vocabulary, this, as the studies show, has an indirect effect in their success in life. This is the power of early exposure. Libraries at home are going to indirectly contribute or sort of cultivate this habit of reading, because if you have a designated spot where all your books are there, chances are your child's going to go into that space, pick up a book, and at a subconscious level develop this habit of reading because of the space that you've created or what's available. Very interesting incident about Bill Gates and Lakeside School in Seattle is that the Lakeside School, where Bill Gates was studying, was one of the first educational institutions in that region to have a computer connection through a teleport facility. And Bill Gates would had the opportunity to spend countless hours coding, learning, experimenting with that computer. And he later recalls in many of his videos and in many of his books that indirectly accelerated his journey in the computing empire that he built later on. Steve Jobs' example I've shared with you already before about him dropping into calligraphy classes, indirectly adding on to his skill at designing fonts for Mac later on. So early exposure to any new technology has indirectly an effect, makes you comfortable with learning that skill. I'm no Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, but I'll share my personal example with you as well. As a student of, I was lucky, honored, privileged to be a student of this wonderful school in Batala, District Gurdaspur, where I grew up. It was called the St. Francis School. And I remember when we had a computer lab set up there, I must be in grade 4th or grade 5th. We were all so excited. We were as excited as a little child walking into a NASA facility, for example. And it was air conditioned, and we had to take off our shoes, and there and like the 2 or 3 computers that were there, and we were allowed to interact and the program and do other sort of things, and basic computing skills. But it was love at first sight for me when I walked into that computer lab. And although I never took up IT or computers as a formal subject ever in my career, but my early exposure to computers, my early love with computers, my early passion for developing IT skills have been helpful throughout my career later on. So another very interesting instance was these sort of early experiences shape who you are and who you become. After my grade 10th, I had a 2 or 3 month gap in between before college was to start. And in my neighborhood was a computer training institute called Fact Computers. Bobby Paji was the owner, wonderful human being. So here I was, a 10th grade kid, walking into, everybody else in that place would be older than me, right? But I would walk in, I would learn, and I would ask questions and stay over time and do sort of things which were not part of, I would volunteer to, if there were a lot of people coming in to get, just basic, get a document typed in and printed, because it was a rare thing back then to have a computer and printer in the city. It was just one of the first places where you could get that done. He needed help with people typing in stuff. So before Fact Computers, the other option for me was to learn typing in a typing training center where traditional typewriters were being used. But luckily, this thing happened. This Fact Computers came along just at the right time. And I enrolled, instead of learning how to type on a typewriter, I was learning the brand new technology, which was Microsoft Word and 8 floppy disks back at that point of time, right? And we had no internet. We were lucky, blessed in a different sort of way, because internet is one of the leading distractions of our times. I would stay back. After Bobby Baji was so nice, he would say, you could lock the center and give the keys to me in the morning. So the center used to be, this computer training institute used to be closed at 6 p.m. or something. I would stay until 9, 9:30, 10 at times. But because we didn't have the internet, I would actually do useful stuff. Unlike many of our young friends right now, which spend time on the internet, half the time on browsing stuff that they shouldn't be looking at, the other half clearing your caches and your history. But we were lucky. We were blessed at that point of time to stay focused. I fully used this time to develop my skills, formally, informally, experimenting, all the things I shared with you. It was early exposure. It was early experimentation. It was early adoption as well at that point of time. So, for example, if I started creating my to-do list instead of on a pen and paper, on an Excel sheet. So there was early adoption of Excel. And basic Excel skills resulted into advanced Excel skills, which were always a plus for me in my hospitality career as well. In many places, in many of the jobs that I've worked at, I was the go-to person for all sort of IT-related issues, and which was exciting. It was fun. I repeat once again what I said before. If you have skills that others don't have, you certainly put yourself in a position of high demand, and that will open new doors for you, exciting new opportunities for you. So this was this little time spent at Fact Computers. Interesting incident I must share with you was I, at that point of time, typed in the CV of a gentleman who would later on help me decide my career in the hospitality industry. So he came in, he said, I need help, somebody typing in my CV. So he was working for a hotel in Amritsar, and Harpreet Singh Javanda, Paji, I'm talking about you. And I typed in the CV, and I got to know him. And later on, when this opportunity for hospitality management came in for me, the only person that came to my mind was, let me go and see that person, that nice gentleman, Mr. Harpreet Singh Javanda, and let me see if he can guide me. He was very kind to do that. So if you step outside your comfort zone, you're going to meet new people, make new contacts way beyond your age, way beyond your competency and your skills at that point of time. But that only happens when you take initiative. So I didn't have to enroll at Fact Computers and learn MS Word or Excel. None of my other classmates were doing it. I decided to, I chose to, and that made all the difference. The next very important part, and I'm sharing, the reason why I'm sharing all these examples with you is to make it sufficiently clear the 4-step process that I shared with you in developing your skills, how important they are: early exposure, early experimentation, early adoption, and constant upgradation. let's say, I don't know, what are the latest trends that in your workplace or, if you're a student in your field of study right now, but are you exposing yourself to them? Are you going to those conferences, those guest lectures? Are you watching those videos? Are you doing that stuff? Because that's going to indirectly contribute as you move forward on this journey. Launching my website as a speaker was the next big step. I have no formal education in IT or computer applications or programming of any sort whatsoever. Let me be very clear. But at a very young age, I developed the skill of taking a look at a computer application and figuring out how it could be used for practical purposes. So when I launched my career in 2007 as a motivational speaker, I was only restricted to the state of Punjab because there's only so much we could travel and visit clients personally and make sales calls to offer our services. But that came to a point where we couldn't. It was not sustainable on a larger extent. I mean, I couldn't fly to Mumbai just to make sales calls or to tell people what I do for a living. And that's when the idea of launching my own website happened, which opened so many new avenues for me. And believe me, if I tell you this, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing right now in front of you had it not been to this one critical component of my journey, launching my website, when perhaps, I don't know, as far as motivational speakers go, we had maybe one other website at that point of time. So there was very little to reference to in India, but then we looked up at so many websites internationally. We worked on a blueprint. I was very lucky to work with some good designers, and we came up with that thing. And then search engine optimization happened, and queries started coming in from all corners of the country, then all corners of the world. We were very excited about this, and that was a major turning point in my journey as a speaker. And it was also motivation to learn more. You see, it's very important to share with you here. Sometimes you embark on learning a new skill and you may not get the results immediately. What do most people do? They give up. You go to the gym 6, 7, 10 days in a row, you're not getting the results. You conclude that it's useless, you come back. I just want you to stick to something new to the point that you get some results, okay? Because that is going to fuel your motivation to go to the next level. However long it takes, you take it to a level where you're getting some results out of it. So when I got these exciting results out of launching my own website, we started exploring the whole gamut of online presence and online publicity and digital marketing and Instagram and Quora and so many other things which contribute to informing our target audience right now. And then YouTube happened, which is a blessing, because earlier, a lot of the content that I would generate, a lot of the things that we would work hard on would be restricted to a very small audience in a live seminar or a live keynote or workshop. And now YouTube has enabled me to take this information to millions of viewers across the world and in this country. And I'm so very happy and grateful for that, because we're living in an information era, and I consider it my responsibility to share these ideas with you. So in sort of concluding this video series on how to establish a strong career in a changing, volatile, uncertain world, I would say this to my viewers. I would remind you that you're living in a whole new, exciting, different world than what I was born into. If I take this specific example of India, and I'm sure many developing countries of the world have sort of a similar trajectory of growth, whether it's the access to smartphones, access to the internet, aviation, far-flung corners of the country now being connected, highways, job opportunities, you're living in an entirely different India than the one that I was born into. I mean, we had to dial, living in Batala, I had to make an STD call, like a outstation call to a different city, get charged for that call, and then get a connection speed of 28 kilobytes per second. And now speeds of 4 megabytes per second are entry level. Smartphones prices have crashed. People are learning things that they never had exposure to before. This is an exciting new world, and it's up to us to make the very best out of it. I want to conclude this video series with a few simple laws of success. As I started, I told you, yes, the world is changing faster than it was ever before. But yes, it's also true the world has always been changing. Right from when human beings moved from their original homes in Africa and spread out to different parts of the world, Till today, change has been the only constant. Change is not new. It's not only now that change is happening. Change has always been happening. Human beings have always been threatened by new technologies and efficient things. But certain laws, which I will share with you now, were true back then and are true now. First one, which you see on the screen right now, is you can divide tasks in your life into two categories. Okay? Category one is things that you have to do. And category two is things that you choose to do. 99% of humanity is in category number one, are focusing, working on only things that they have to do. That is, things that are asked from them, the minimum requirements asked by their employers or their teachers or their bosses or their parents or of themselves. They just want to get by. They will follow what is the minimum requirement expected from them. The 1% would think about things in addition to what is required to get by. These folks are doing things which they don't have to do. I mean, even if they don't do this stuff, they'll do just fine. They'll be category number one, they'll get by. But they choose to do these things deliberately. And I think category number two is going to have the maximum number of impact on your career or your business. You see, you don't have to wake up half an hour early in the morning and go for a run or go to the gym or look after your fitness. You don't have to. You don't have to figure out what's healthy for you to eat. There is no law in any country which will stop you from eating as much as you like. I mean, kill yourself by overfeeding yourself. There is no law anywhere that will say, okay, you're done, you shouldn't be eating anymore. You can kill yourself by drinking alcohol every day and a slow death, and there's no law that can stop you. It's when you choose to, you figure out, I don't have to do this thing, but I choose to do this thing. As a successful keynote speaker serving corporations across the world, working with some of the biggest names, I don't have to do YouTube videos. I choose to do them. It's the things that you choose to do are the ones that are going to make a maximum impact on your career. For a young student, you can get by with 75% attendance, and you say, okay, fine, I'm happy with 75% attendance. You don't have to enroll in digital learning courses. You don't have to pick up books which are not in your curriculum. You don't have to go and talk to seniors about what is happening in the job market. You don't have to spend time on LinkedIn to find out mentors for yourself. But if you choose to, remember, you're in a minority now, and your chances of going forward and succeeding and establishing a successful career are way higher than anyone else. You don't have to come in 10 minutes early at your workplace, 15 minutes early at your workplace. Make sure it's bright, it's airy. Make sure you have your cup of tea or coffee ready. Make sure you're in a good mood and you get started. You don't have to do that. But if you choose to, and that's when you put yourself in a position where your growth is accelerated, okay? So find out, where are you spending the maximum number of your time? The second law, which has been true for agriculture and is true for human performance, is the law of sowing and reaping. Many speakers have given it different names, but it's a simple, fundamental law of nature. What is more exciting? Reaping is. Where would you like to be given a choice? Reaping. Everybody loves reaping. Everybody loves taking, enjoying the benefits of something. But if you get into the habit of, or learn the power of sowing, don't count your days. I don't know who said this, but these are powerful set of words. Don't count your day by what you reaped, by the harvest you reaped on that day. Count your day by the number of seeds you have sown for the future. Now, sowing is hard work. It's difficult work because you don't get to see the results immediately. There's a lot of uncertainty. Will you get the harvest or not, right? There could be so many things that happen in between. But if you are someone who can quietly do those things required, which you know in the long run, and this is very important, successful people, successful entrepreneurs, successful business persons, politicians, sports persons, whatever field it is, investors, are the ones who live their life with a long-term vision. People who live their life with a short-term vision are always the ones who want to reap and harvest, even if even if it wasn't them who sowed those seeds. They just want to take away. But people who live their life with a long-term vision are the ones who believe in the power of sowing, who have the faith, the belief, and the patience to understand the simple process. If I plant today, there will be a day when harvest is going to give me great benefits. Learn this simple. Learning is sowing. Interacting with people who will give you new ideas and information is sowing seeds of greatness for tomorrow. Reading a book which perhaps you feel has no direct value for you today is sowing for the future. Learn to cultivate this art of sowing before you expect to reap. As you embark on this journey of improving your skill set, please don't forget a very important component. The underlying component of your overall success would be a right mindset to go with the skill set. A lot of people acquire a wonderful skill set. They're capable of doing a lot of things. They have the certifications, they've been to prestigious institutes, they have the experience, the credibility. But somehow, especially after spending some time in those careers, they develop a negative mindset. I think you owe it to yourself to take time off every now and then, to take a step back, figure out if, by and large, a majority of your decisions or a majority of your behavior is being dictated by the wrong set of mindset instructions. Famous Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said it beautifully. If you set your mind right, the rest of your life will fall into place. If you set your mind right, the rest of your life will fall into place. And I think it's beautifully expressed, the same thing that we see in corporations, that the same amount of opportunities are available to the entire workforce. There's only a select few who are able to catch them because they are the ones with an open, exploratory sort of mindset. If you retreat into a shell, or if you make the wrong conclusions about yourself or your life or your future, you will force yourself into a position where you will not be able to capitalize on the new opportunities that are coming across. So it's really important to cultivate, and it takes effort. And as I've shared in countless other videos before, the mind left to itself will drift towards the negative. Human mind, for a majority of us, unless you're a Buddhist monk or something, but the majority of us, the human mind left to itself is going to dwell on what's missing, what's not working right, missed opportunities, could have, should have, etc. It takes some amount of effort, some amount of training, some amount of conscious effort to redirect the mind and say, hey, life has been overall good to me. I've had these opportunities. I've got air in my lungs, I've got food in my belly, and then, I can capture and the sort of opportunities that I need to. It takes that conscious effort, that decision to find out, and the reminder to yourself, let me figure out what is already available to me. That my life today might be a dream for other people. So why am I sitting here regretting? Why am I sitting here playing the victim? Why don't I move forward? And as I move forward, the resources, the people, the support that I need will emerge. And I have experienced that practically at every step of these major career transitions that I've spoken about in the past, in other videos, that you never embark a journey by knowing fully what it's going to involve. You take that first step into darkness, you take that first step into uncertainty. And as you move forward with conviction and as you stick to the path, countless new resources, people, all the stuff you need to help you accomplish your goals, they emerge. So it's really important that I mention this point, that along with the skill set, which I've laid so much emphasis on, please do not overlook the underlying operating software of your skill set is your mindset. Mindset, defined by many authors in different ways, to me it means, by and large, predominantly, what are your thoughts, what is your way of looking at the world, which shapes sort of things that you do or things that you don't do. Like, for example, if your mindset says the world is a friendly place and I meet friendly people everywhere I go, wouldn't you be more inclined to initiate a conversation with a stranger? The answer is yes. If you're someone whose predominant way of thinking is, oh, you have to be careful and people can harm you and that sort of stuff, you wouldn't be inclined to initiate a conversation or extend your hand or create a new connection. So the mindset is the underlying determination, the factor which determines what sort of decisions you take, how you act. So it's really important, because in many cases I've found there's people with the right skill set who've worked very hard in cultivating qualities, professional qualities, competence, but then the mindset, they lose track of it somewhere. So please keep this in mind. I will be finishing this video by not fully explaining, by introducing the very important concept of finding the right mentors. Whether you're a business person, solo entrepreneur, student, working executive, the right mentors are going to play a huge role in your life. Apart from the obvious reasons, there's a technical, scientific sort of reason why you need to seek out and find the right mentors, which I will share with you in detail in the next video of this series. I hope we've been able to add some value here through this series, where entirely my focus was to help you not only safeguard, but also strengthen your career. And I wish you all, the viewers, a life and a career full of growth, development, and joy. I wish you all a life full of growth, development, and joy. And also with a little warning that if the first two are missing, in your professional, personal lives, growth and development, the third one is going to be very hard to get to. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.